Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a winner for the Joby Grip Type Pro Telepod. I am super stoked about it. Intro. Salutations everybody, Benjamin Brandon here, back with another video gear review, and I am so stoked for this one. Not only are we giving away the Joby Grip Type Pro Telepod, we will be giving away the Joby HandyPod Mobile Plus after this video, all coming at the end of the video. Gear reviews are one of my most favorite things to create, and that's why I create them. And if you feel inclined to hit that subscribe button for more gear reviews and vertical video and IGTV tutorials, you know what to do. Now let's talk about the Joby HandyPod Mobile Plus. So along with the Telepod, I had the HandyPod Mobile Plus for just the same amount of time, about over a month, and I've been playing with it religiously. I took both products with me to at least 12 shoots within the past month. Whether it was making my own videos or client projects, both of them were very handy. Yes, pun intended. So some specs on the HandyPod. This little dynamic beast is very, well, yeah, handy. I just used that pun, didn't I? It holds just a little bit over 2 pounds in weight, and of course it has the 1/4 inch thread on top for both your camera and the phone adapter that comes with the HandyPod itself, which is obviously very useful. And the HandyPod itself is not even a pound. So if you rig your mirrorless camera with the mic or your phone itself, you're not even holding 3 pounds. Now what's unique about this product is it has a locking ball system that gives you a 90-degree tilt for your vertical video, of course, and it gives you the ability to have a 360 panoramic rotation, so you can adjust your phone and camera however you please. It's actually also very handy, I need to stop saying handy, for vlogging as well, which you'll see soon. And that ergonomic rubber handle that it has feels amazing. I'm not just saying that, like for real, it feels really good. I'm using the wrong analogies today. In the box you have the phone attachment itself, of course the HandyPod, and the Bluetooth shutter remote, which is super useful so you can just get away from your shot and just boop, start recording, that's it. The HandyPod Mobile Plus is designed for horizontal and vertical video, and it's amazing for vertical video, like for real, it even says it on their website. Now this tripod is intended for phones and GoPros, however, you can use it with a mirrorless camera like my Canon M50, the hashtag Vert certified camera of choice, by the way. That camera is super lightweight, and other cameras that are comparable to that, maybe point and shoot cameras like a G7X, a Sony 5100 perhaps, or even a Canon M5. And honestly, I would say you can use it for any camera when it comes to using it on a tabletop, but you have to make sure you don't move the camera because then it just tilts down. As you see, it just gets a little weird after that. But I was able to set it up on my desk, compose my shot appropriately, and as long as I didn't touch it, I was good with my Sony a7 II with my really big 16-35 Zeiss lens. So now that you know all the spec information, here are my 7 favorite ways to use the Joby HandyPod Mobile Plus. The first one is as a B-roll shooter. Whether you're shooting time lapses with your phone or a mirrorless camera, using it for pan or tilt shots, or even because of its size in the handle, even getting macro shots of things really close up, I was actually able to get some really good B-roll with the HandyPod. And for the second favorite way, not necessarily a use, but it's extremely portable, which allowed me to use it while I traveled. I do have projects that are out of town. I even took the HandyPod with me on vacation with my wife. We went to New Orleans and I played around with it there. Using it for travel videos was one of my favorite parts, and I would recommend using it for travel videos if you travel videos. My third favorite way to use it is busting it out in discrete locations. You know those locations where you're out in public and you're doing some guerrilla filmmaking and you know you're really not supposed to film anywhere. The HandyPod was amazing when I used it in those scenarios because it's so small that you don't make such an attraction while you're trying to shoot something out in public. You know, whenever I had my GorillaPod and I had my Sony A2 on it with my big old lens and the mic and all that, I just kind of create this attraction of like, look, I'm shooting a video, everyone can see. Versus the HandyPod, all I did was pop my phone on it and I was literally left alone. Security didn't even know what it was, so they didn't even stop me, and they were actually at the location about 100 feet away from us as we were shooting the Telepod video in public at an outdoor mall. Now don't get me wrong, I still use my GorillaPod in public, but for the locations that I may have burned or have been caught making video, it was great just having the HandyPod in my pocket and then just shot some B-roll, shot some A-roll really fast, slipped it back in my pocket, called it a day. One of my other favorite ways to use the HandyPod is on a tabletop. Now this is great because it's such a quick setup. You literally screw on your camera or put on your phone, pop it on the tabletop, that's it, like you're done. Versus other times where I have to take my big old tripod out, take all the legs out, make sure it's level, adjust it appropriately, and then I can start shooting that little B-roll shot of my keyboard, and which takes way less time than the setup did itself. Also regarding the tabletop point, the HandyPod was actually really good for microphones. For me personally, during tutorials I do them in my office downstairs, and I always have a hard time shooting those with the audio because my camera is so far away from me, and the mic picks up the echo and everything like that. So putting a mic on top of the HandyPod was awesome because it was right next to me, but yet still out of frame. It's so short that I was able to hide it under the frame. And for my fifth favorite way to use the HandyPod, it was my time-lapse companion. Now the Joby Telepod was great for time lapses as well, but the HandyPod was even better. The reason being is it was more stable during windy conditions. Last week I did a time lapse for a client project of mine, and I just used my phone because I didn't know what would come of it, but what I wanted to do is capture the boat coming to the dock. And it was super windy. I did have the telepod with me as well, and I was initially going to use the telepod for that time lapse. And I thought to myself, I should actually use the HandyPod because I don't think I would have to deal with the swaying and back and forth because of the wind. It's just this little guy and those little sturdy legs putting it on that table and just letting it go. That was pretty cool. Now for my sixth favorite way, this is something that Joby products really get underutilized for, and that is stabilizers. Yeah, I know. I actually use my GorillaPod here and there for stabilized shots when I don't want to pull out my big old crane gimbal. And it's always worked really well for me. There's actually a whole video about how I use GorillaPods. I'll link it down below so you can see that. And the HandyPod was actually no exception. Because of the grip itself and how close I can put it to my torso and my hand, I was able to get really decent shots just by using this thing as a stabilizer, whether it was pull in or pull out shots, even pans, and it didn't require much post-stabilization tweaking at all. I was pleasantly surprised. And finally, the seventh favorite way to use the Joby HandyPod is, well, for vlogging. It works great for shooting on your phone or with a small camera and a mic, but the proof is always in the pudding, so let me show you. Now for vlogging, this is pretty cool because I'm literally just holding the HandyPod and I'm using my mirrorless camera that is a crop sensor, so it's a 15-45, but I'm still to the point where I'm not claustrophobic like this. Yeah, it's pretty impressive, and the greatest part about it is it's lightweight. Now let's say you don't have a mirrorless camera with a 15-45mm lens and maybe you're using like a Canon SL2 with an 18-55. What you can do with the HandyPod is take advantage of the ball head and actually tilt it, kind of like you do with the GorillaPods if you do that with GorillaPods. And then boom, there you go. I broadened my focal range just by tilting the HandyPod, which is pretty cool. And I think one of the best parts about this thing is the same rules apply with your phone. You can see I'm pretty much getting the same focal length using my phone, and I can also tilt to extend my reach when I'm using my phone. I would preferably use my Sandmarc wide angle lens on this thing, but I forgot it. Now let's go ahead and test this with vertical video for my vert friends. So for all my beautiful vert friends, there we go. We have a 15-45 with the same Canon M50 mirrorless camera. Here's how you check if the combination of your tripod and your lens is good for vertical video. The toe test. If you can see your toes, it works really well. Boom, and now we are vert with my phone. Now the thing I would say with this is it's a little awkward to hold, but just barely, like literally just barely. Now the only real drawback is you can't tilt the ball head like you did with horizontal video because you're using the ball head to go vertical. So that's the only thing I would say is kind of a bummer. This is actually a scenario where I have to use my Sandmarc wide angle lens because I can't tilt to extend my focal length. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, overall it's pretty awesome. I did have a hard time trying to find any cons, and so I shared some of those out in location. And I was really picking through straws here because as long as you're using the HandyPod for its intended purposes, knowing that it's for a phone, you could use it for a mirrorless camera and definitely a GoPro, and that its primary use is for tabletops and flat surfaces, then you're never gonna have an issue with it because it's really just awesome. And to top it off, the ball head system is actually super strong, like more than I thought it would be. And so that is everything you need to know about the Joby HandyPod Mobile Plus. Those are my 7 favorite ways to use the HandyPod, and now you can apply those to your own shoots. Now let's bring up the winner of the Joby GripTight Pro Telepod. This is a $99 value, shipping it to you for free. And the winner of the Joby GripTight Pro Telepod is at Intrinsi Cali Fit, Brittany Chantel on Instagram. Congratulations, she was our randomly selected winner for the Telepod. Now let's talk about how you can get your hands on the HandyPod. The rules are exactly the same for this guy. Head over to Instagram, head over to my page, make sure you're following me, duh. Then head on over to Joby's page, make sure you're following them. Comment in this video if you want to win, and tag a friend on this post that you see here on my feed. That's it. The winner will be announced on next week's video, and I hope to see you then. If this video provides you any value and you enjoyed it, do me a favor, smash the like button, get after it, subscribe, hit the notification bell with the notification things. You do what you want to do, I'm just here for you. And I, my beautiful vert friends, will see you on the next one. I'm gonna go play with my HandyPod now. You can play with a HandyPod too. I need to stop saying playing and handy at the same time. That's just awkward. We could be HandyPod bros, or bro and sis, whatever. Peace.